Hello, my name is Dilip Fotedar, and in this lesson I will share with you my understanding of what's expected of you in the exam room when it comes to ship handling situations. This lesson is part 1 of the ship handling exam situations. So let's get started. Let me share with you some universal exam tips before we start. Tip number 1. Remember that the examiner is aware that you perhaps have very little experience of ship handling. All they are expecting from you is the knowledge of how you can handle a ship safely in different circumstances of the case. Now, ship handling, like any other skill, is not an exact science. As long as you follow the basic principles of ship handling and keep the ship and the people safe, your answers will be by and large suitable. To keep it simple, an average-sized, right-hand and fixed-pitch propelled ship is generally used in the exam room. Now, if you ask for bow thrusters, stern thrusters, or tugs, or fancy rudders, or azimuth thrusters, you make sure you know how to use them safely, because it is quite possible your examiner may say, well, you asked for it, so you have them. Tip number 2. Always start with a risk assessment. You can say that you do not have practical ship handling experience, and for that reason, I will carry out a full risk assessment first. This approach allows you time to think and formulate a good answer. Tip number 3. If the situation given to you includes current, then make sure that your maneuver is conducted while stemming the tide. Always turn your ship around to make headway against the current. Same logic will apply if your situation includes wind. It's easier to control the ship when making headway against the current or wind. Between current and wind, impact of current is the strongest. Therefore, if current and wind are from the opposite directions, you should stem the tide. Of course, you need to bear in mind the strength of each. Also, keep the momentum of the ship in control. Momentum is the product of ship's mass and her velocity. You cannot change the momentum unless internal or external forces are applied. Therefore, if for some reasons those forces become unavailable, such as an engine failure, you will always be better off with as little momentum as possible. For this reason, when you are ship handling, keep the speed of the ship to bare minimum. You may even wish to stop the ship before you initiate your ship handling maneuvers. This will allow you to rapidly increase the RPM, therefore increasing the thrust on the propeller as well as the transverse thrust without a rapid increase in her speed. Tip number 4. Before you initiate ship handling maneuvers in the exam room, think about how best to use external factors such as wind and current to your advantage. You may also sometimes have to think about future maneuvers. For example, when coming alongside, you may think of using your anchor, which may be necessary to get the ship off the jetty in a port with predominantly onshore winds. Tip number 5. Consider how you can safely use ship's ropes, ship's anchors, and a transverse thrust to your advantage. These can be used to create an effective lever or a thrust in a particular direction. Also, when using ropes or anchors, bear in mind the safety aspects such as doubling up of the ropes, use of fenders, and asking the crew to stay clear when conducting maneuvers that may result in rope splitting. This is just an additional precaution for safety of your crew and linesmen. Tip number 6. Practice makes you perfect. Practice the various commonly asked ship handling situations in the exam room and get your answers cross-checked by people that know what they are talking about. Turning a short round in the exam room. Use of transverse thrust and an understanding of how it works is the key to answering this question. You will be turning a short round when there is not enough room for you to make a round turn, but sufficient room to turn the ship without snubbing around an anchor. So turning short round in 7 steps. Step 1 is, since transverse thrust is more effective on stern propulsion, I will start the maneuver from the port side of the channel. Step 2, I will bring my ship to near stop or stop at a point where I will initiate my turn. Step 3, I'll put rudder hard starboard and main engines full ahead. Step 4, when approximately 90 degrees off my initial course, I will stop engines well in time to control headway. Step 5, when approximately 120 degrees off my initial course, I will put rudder midships and engines full astern. Step 6, the bow of my vessel will swing to starboard and stern will move to port due to the transverse thrust. Step 7, I will then put rudder to starboard and engines ahead to complete the turn. Snubbing round on the anchor in the exam room. If turning short round is not possible, either due to the lack of sea room or due to a strong stern current, a vessel can use her anchor to snub around. To do that, I'll prepare my anchor party. I will slow down to maintain steerage way. I will walk back starboard anchor, put rudder hard starboard and stop my engines. I will keep my cable at short stay and allow it to lead aft, dragging the anchor along the bottom. The cable will act as a spring and cant the bow round towards the anchor. I can use my engine to assist the turn if required. When 180 degrees course change is achieved, I will safely pick up my anchor and continue towards my destination. How will you carry out a running moor? This moor is used to hold ship from swinging around one anchor to reduce swinging circle. So to maintain the control, I will stem the tide. I will then walk back windward anchor so that the vessel will be blown down from the anchor cable. I will stop my engine and continue to pay out the cable, which can be up to 8 or 9 shackles. I'll then let the vessel overrun final position and I will walk back leeward anchor, and as the vessel starts to drop astern, I will start heaving away on the windward anchor. Finally, I'll bring the vessel up between the 2 anchors. Making a standing moor. Standing moor has same purpose as running moor, but can be performed without the use of main engines, i.e. you can make it on a dead ship. Step 1. To maintain control, I'll stem the tide. Step 2. I'll walk back my leeward anchor so that the vessel will be blown down from the windward anchor cable. Step 3. As tide pushes downstream, I'll continue to pay out the cable up to 8 or 9 shackles. Step 4. I'll let the vessel overrun final position. Step 5. Walk back windward anchor and hold leeward anchor. Step 6. Start heaving away on the leeward anchor and pay out on windward anchor. And finally, step 7. Bring the vessel up between the two anchors. Performing an open moor. Open moor is required when one anchor may not provide enough holding power. So first, we will mark the first anchor, second anchor, and final resting place of the ship on the chart. Then we will steam slowly towards the first anchor position. We'll walk back starboard anchor to the seabed. Then we operate astern propulsion and run out the cable as the ship moves ahead. Whilst the engine is operated astern, when the ship is stopped in the water, the port anchor is walked back. And finally, by careful maneuvering of the engines and the helm, and by paying out on the port cable, whilst heaving in on the starboard cable, will bring the ship up on the two cables with equal weight. Mediterranean moor. Mediterranean moor is used for stern loading on ferries and tankers. Success of this operation depends on correct positioning of the first anchor. Therefore, anchor bearings on the radar and by sight must be used. GPS positioning is also very helpful in positioning your anchors correctly. Step 1. Mark the first anchor, second anchor, and the final resting place of the ship on the chart. Step 2. Steam slowly towards the first anchor position. Step 3. Once at the anchor position, walk back your starboard anchor to the seabed. Step 4. Operate astern propulsion and run out the cable as the ship moves ahead due to her momentum. Step 5. Whilst the engine is operated astern, when the ship is stopped in the water, the port anchor is walked back. Step 6. Maneuver the ship to within heaving line distance from the quay, and you can do that by using your engines and anchor cable operations. And step 7. Pass your stern moorings to the quay. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that brings to the close of this lesson. You can now go to my next lesson for more situations. See you then. Bye.